Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander's Forge. My name is Andy Bentley, and the Forge is an area for me to talk about Magic, Commander, and anything else while I try and drag this whole mental health thing back out of the pit that it's in. Now, this week I want to talk about some Assassin's Creed stuff. I did record an episode about this, but I lost it because I was having issues with my microphone. And at the time of recording it the last time, we did not have the full set spoiled. We only had seen like 12 cards or something like that. So, first off, I want to give my full honest opinion on the set as a whole. And that is, I do not like that they have 7 card booster packs. That's what it's going to boil down to. And beyond the fact that I'm just continually broke trying to get my car fixed right now, I can't justify buying packs that only have 7 cards in them. Believe me, we tried it with the epilogue boosters, and that was a mess. That said, there are there are a lot of cards that I like in the set. I just think I'm gonna have to. Well, I think I'm just gonna have to pick up singles when I have the money. Oh, and another side note, I'm very disappointed that the Boros is just equipment again. That, I don't know. I'm just kind of sick of seeing Boros equipment commanders. Not that I'm going to complain. They'll still make it into like decks that I do Boros equipment stuff with, but I don't know. I liked that they have been taking Boros in different directions, and this was just one massive step back. But that said, let's talk about some of the cards I am interested in getting my hands on. And looking at these, I am going to refrain from talking about any of the reprinted cards that are getting put into Modern with this set. So let's just jump into it with the first one. And I know I just complained about Boros equipment, but the first card is an equipment card. It is Caduceus, Staff of Hermes. 2 and a white, and that's another thing that does bring a lot of these equipment down, in my opinion, a little bit, is I like that they have colored mana in them, which makes them, a white card. But if you're running the swords package, which gives a lot of protection from colors, stuff like this is just going to fall off. Mini rant aside, Caduceus is a legendary artifact equipment. The equipped creature has lifelink. As long as you have 30 or more life, the equipped creature gets +5/+5, has indestructible, and you prevent all damage that would be dealt to this creature, and you can equip it for white. Next up, I have a legendary creature that I actually really enjoy the design of, and that is Senu, Keen-Eyed Protector. 1 and a white for a 2/1 bird scout with flying and vigilance. You can tap and exile Senu, Keen-Eyed Protector to gain 2 life and scry 2. And then whenever a legendary creature you control attacks and isn't blocked, if Senu is exiled, you can put it onto the battlefield attacking. Notice there that it doesn't say tapped and attacking. So if you want to, you can, end of the opponent's turn before you, tap Senu, gain 2 life, scry 2. Then untap, and on your turn, either give something unblockable or have a flyer that can get through that's a legendary attack. You get Senu back, untapped and attacking, and then you can do it again next turn. I really like the design there, and it just kind of speaks to the crazy, stupid stuff I want to do. Now, shifting over to blue, the first card that really caught my attention was Become Anonymous. It's 2 blue for an instant. Exile target non-token creature you control and the top 2 cards of your library in a face-down pile. Shuffle that pile, then cloak those cards. They enter the battlefield tapped. So cloaking them means that they are a 2/2 creature with Ward 2. I don't know, I think that's just like a cool way to try and protect a creature. But also, there is that blue-green Vannifar from the most recent Karlov Manor set. And she cares about having colorless creatures, and one of the things she can do is cloak cards from your hand. This is just a way to get extra ones out of your library, right? Now, the other card I'm looking at in blue is Desynchronization. It's 2 blue for an instant. Return each non-land permanent that's not historic to its owner's hand. Historic meaning artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. I like that this can be a board wipe that's not a complete board wipe, because this doesn't get rid of commanders, this doesn't get rid of, mana rocks, stuff like that. Does that make it a lot less powerful? Sure. But a 4 mana instant board wipe that hits a good number of stuff, I can see this getting played in a lot of the places. Particularly places that I'm gonna hate when I see it. And now shifting on over to black, the first card I want to talk about is Cover of Darkness. 1 and a black for an enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type have Fear. This is the return of Fear as a keyword that has not been seen in many years. But Fear, for those who aren't aware, means that they can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. And fun fact, red also used to have an ability like this called Intimidate. Though that wasn't specific to red like the way Fear is. It was the creature couldn't be blocked except by colorless or creatures that shared a color with them. So not the same, but very similar. Instead, what we have now is typically Menace, which is just making it harder to block because you need to have 2 creatures to do it. But I digress. Now, the other black card I want to talk about real fast is Restart Sequence. It's 3 and a black for a sorcery. And it says, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, graveyard to battlefield is a great thing, but this also has an ability to make it cheaper. It has the free running ability. Now, what that is you may cast a spell for its free running cost if you've dealt damage with damage to a player with either an assassin or a commander. And the free running cost on this one is 1 and a black. So this turns your 4 mana into a 2 mana reanimate spell. I like that. I actually like that a lot. That said, shifting over to red, the first card I want to talk about, as much as I am not the biggest fan of colored artifacts, is actually the Hidden Footblade. It's a single red mana. It's an artifact equipment. It has flash. When the Footblade enters the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control. The creature gains first strike until end of turn, but then the equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has haste, and it equips for 2. I like the equipments that are like a single red mana to give something haste. This one, I like that it can be a little surprise too. But yeah, it's just a stupid little... Now, the other red card I want to talk about, mostly because I realized I'm not talking about a lot of creatures, is the Spartan Veteran. It is a single red mana for a 1/1 human soldier. As long as it's your turn, he has first strike. And you can pay 2 to give him +1/+0 to end of turn. We're going to call that bad fire breathing, because fire breathing is +2/+1 for all red mana, but don't worry about it. I like cheap, efficient creatures, especially in this set. Boros wants you to have cheap, efficient creatures to put equipment on. So it just makes sense that it's gonna be there. I want to preface this next section off with, I have mostly been avoiding talking about legendary creatures because next week I will do my deep dive into most of them, or most of the ones that pique my interest. But I have to talk about Eveline de Grandpré. She is 2 green for a 3/3 human assassin, and I got very excited when I saw Death Touch on a mono green creature. And then I kept writing. And she says, whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on that creature. And I was like, oh, this is great for Finn. And then I read the last line, and it says Disguise for a black and a green. So, this is not a mono green card. And I got very excited, but it's very important to do as the professor says. Reading the card explains the card. Just throwing that out there. But the other green card I do want to talk about real fast is the Viewpoint Synchronization. It's 4 and a green, but again, it has a free running cost of 2 and a green. And it says, search your library for up to 3 basic land cards and reveal them. Put 2 of them into the battlefield tapped, and the other into your hand, and then shuffle. So, this starts off at 5 mana as like a slightly better explosive vegetation. But if you can get it for its free running price, it is better than a Cultivate or a Kodama's Reach. And I like that card design a lot. Moving into some multicolored spells. The first one I want to talk about is Rooftop Bypass. It's 1, a black, and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever one or more non-token creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a 1/1 black assassin creature token with Menace. I like things like this that encourage you to A, attack, and B, give you something that's going to allow you to block afterwards. It's just a real nice, clean design, and I'm a fan. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is Bleeding Effect, which is 2, a white and a black for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control gain flying until end of turn, if a creature card in your graveyard has flying. The same is true for First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Trample, and Vigilance. So, this cares about them being in the graveyard, but this is the Odric Lunarch Martial text on an enchantment. And I think that's very neat. Indeed. But that's going to bring us almost to the end of this part. There are, believe it or not, some colorless equipment in the set that I want to touch on real fast. First up is the Brotherhood Regalia. It is a 2-mana equipment. The equipped creature has Ward 2, is an assassin in addition to its other types, and can't be blocked. That's the big part there. Can't be blocked, and Ward 2. Not to be confused with the... Oh, I'm blanking on the name. It's the equipment that gives it Shroud and Unblockable. Shroud means you can't target it anymore. But Ward 2 is not something you have to deal with. But the equip cost on this is 3, or you can equip a legendary creature for 1. Next up, we have Excalibur, Sword of Eden. It is a 12-mana equipment, but the spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total mana value of historic permanents you control. Again, historic permanents are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. The equipped creature gets +10/+0 and vigilance. It has no normal equip here. It only has equip legendary creature for 2. So it can't go on a non-legendary creature. Unless you have ways to get around paying an equip cost, which there are ways to do. Either way. Next up we have the Hidden Blade, which is a 2-mana equipment. It has flash when it enters the battlefield attached to a creature you control. If that creature is an assassin, it gains Death Touch till end of turn. Otherwise, it normally just says equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has first strike, equips for 2. Simple, easy. I like the design there. It gives the boost if it is an assassin. 10 out of 10. And yeah, I think the last of the equipment I want to talk about is Mjolnir Stormhammer. 4-mana equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you control. Whenever the equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. And then Mjolnir deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creatures that opponent controls. And it equips for 4. I very much enjoy just dealing extra damage whenever I can. And this kind of fits the bill. Now, I have 2 other artifacts I want to talk about real fast, and then I'll wrap this part up. The first one is Smoke Bomb. It is a 3-mana artifact with flash. It says, all creatures have Shroud, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Smoke Bomb. When you do, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Again, just talk about things that have a neat design. It having flash to give all creatures Shroud is a good way to, protect everything on your board real fast. And then the added bonus of, oh, it's my turn, cool, I sacrifice this and my commander is now unblockable. I really enjoy that. And the last one I want to touch on here is Staff of Eden, Vault's Key. It is a 6-mana legendary artifact. When Staff of Eden Vault's Key enters the battlefield, put target legendary permanent card not named Staff of Eden Vault's Key from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And then it has tap, draw a card for each permanent you control but don't own. So, I think this is cool. I think it can see a lot of fun play in things that are just in the habit of stealing things from opponents' graveyards. Or battlefields. Or hands. Or libraries. Any of them. Yeah, that's kind of all I want to actually talk about, but there is a lot more in the set that I'm not touching on, particularly reprints. So I think I'll talk about those maybe next week when I go through some legendary creatures. But who knows? Maybe going through the legendary creatures is going to take basically as much time as this episode is taking, because this is all we're going to talk about today. I really don't have the time to squeeze in a little quick deck tech because we're already approaching 20 minutes, and I really try not to make these too long because I know nobody wants to hear the sound of my voice. So, this is where I'm going to call it. I hope you all had fun, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. All of my links can be found in my link tree in the description below. I would like to thank Ian Foss and Cody Mulpey of the band The Crypt for allowing me to use music for my opening and ending, along with Nate and Erica Jacobs for making my original logo. And I would also like to thank Christina McNichol for creating my new logo. And I'll see you next time.